Garage, I'm Andy Phillips. Today we're back in the garage working on the Countach project. Not a lot to do, just wrapping up some loose ends that didn't get finished last time that we were in here. Starting off here on this front end and then working our way over to the driver's side. So let's go ahead and get started. For starters, we have this piece here where we put resin in last time. That's been properly hardened, so we can go ahead and sand that down. Also had a little bit in here where we added some resin. Just really sanding those couple spots that we touched up. Also going to take a Dremel and just clean up in these cutouts here for the vents and for the fog lights. And then just make sure there's no other flaws here. I don't think there are. Well, here's one here, a little hole there that needs to be filled. So just kind of take care of that. And then let's head over to the driver's side. Looking here on this driver's side fender, no real damage on this. That actually looks really good. Now we do have this issue here that we've been talking about in the last few episodes, is this, whatever it was, some kind of reaction on this side skirt. Need to strip all that down. I'm going to use some very rough grit sandpaper on the electric sander. Go ahead and scrape all that down to the bare fiberglass so we can go ahead and get whatever that is off of there so we can redo that. A couple little spots in here. Nothing major. This side didn't have the kind of damage that the passenger side had. Just a couple little spots that I filled. We're going to go ahead and sand those smooth. Coming around the door here and here, I don't see anything major, but we'll go over it and double check. Now we do have back here on the side here on the rear. Let's take a look at that. This is where we had that crack in the body, and this was actually going through. It wasn't just in the paint. So last time we were here, we filled that with resin. Everything looks nice and tight. So what I need to do this time is just sand that down nice and smooth and recoat that. And I believe that takes care of everything on this driver's side. A little bit of touching up to do around the rear window. Let's take a look at that, and then that's our last piece. We have here, this is where I added that bump out. I blended it fairly decent, but not perfect. So want to just go ahead and sand this area here, smooth it out real nice. Right here in the corners, there's still a little bit of the resin weld that was put in. Sealing that, want to smooth that better. And then coming around in here, I'll get a close-up. A little bit of some drip marks. So we're just going to clean that up there, smooth this real good here, and that takes care of pretty much the whole body. And there you can see it up close. You can definitely see where the resin and the epoxy was. So that's what we're going to have to be smoothing down right there. And then coming along here, you can see it. It is supposed to be on this angle, so this is not wrong. It is supposed to taper like that. But a little bit of, you can see a little bit there, just needs to be blended better. So that's what we're going to be doing. All right, and that's pretty much all the stuff that we're going to cover this time. Not a lot, just really some touching up. So I'm going to go ahead and get the Dremel tool fired up, and we'll start on the front end, start working our way around and wrap this up. I don't think I'm going to Dremel these out, which was the original plan. When I modified these a few episodes back, I went ahead and finished everything, and it turned out good, but I thought that there were some imperfections. Looking at it again, there's some very minor ones, not enough to where I want to get into Dremeling that. I don't want to cause any damage. So we're going to leave them as they are. When I do the top coat of white primer before paint, we're going to have to light sand the whole vehicle down anyway. Those minor things will be touched up at that point, so we're going to move on from that. However, as I'm down here, and before we move on, if you're seeing these turn signals here, they're just in there, just sitting in there. They don't go there. They're actually up here, actually right here is where they go with the actual lights that mount here, and then the headlights will be up here. So those are coming out of there. That's not where they are. These are the vents that go there and the fog lights here. But I almost forgot, I need to do the underneath spoiler for this car because the original one had been ripped off by the previous owner. I think he bottomed out on a speed bump. So I need to remake that because there were different variations of this. Let me sit up here. There was different variations of this spoiler as the Countach kind of evolved into some of the newer models. And this one here gets the older style. Take a look and I'll show you what I mean. Now, however, I can't buy another one for it, so I'm going to have to make it. So what we're going to do is there's actually a bolt pattern underneath where it gets bolted to this underneath part right here. I need to get the actual bolt pattern and I'm going to take polycarbonate, make the initial part that comes up against the underneath of the body here, and then it's also going to be polycarbonate, kind of like the skeleton framework of it, and then we'll overlay that with fiberglass resin and fiber cloth, and then shape it nice, and mount that back underneath, prime that, paint it, and it'll look fine. So that's on some upcoming episodes, we'll do that, but first, after we're done with the car today, next thing is going to be the focus on the pop-up headlight assemblies, then after that we'll worry about the spoilers. So for now, I'm going to get the sander fired up. Let's hit these couple spots here so we can wrap up this front end and move to the driver's side. Just finished sanding right here. We had a bad crack right through the fiberglass last time. So I filled that with some resin that's nice and hardened. It's been nice and sanded down smooth. We're going to go ahead and prime that. And then coming along here, this is where we had the crack going through there. That's all been filled with resin and sanded. Didn't get it as perfect as I normally do on the body because this is going to be covered by the hood anyway. So this is never going to be seen. So that's all been sanded down. And then down there at that end as well, that's also been sanded. So let's go ahead and prime those so we can move on to the driver's side. All primed there, you can see it. Looks really good, no more crack. And then coming along there, as I mentioned, didn't smooth it as perfect as I would if it was on parts that are shown, but still turned out pretty decent. And then coming down there, you can see that one's all nice and taken care of. I'm looking here on the driver's side, and to be honest, I'm finding some flaws that I didn't see last time, and we've got the spotlights on to really accentuate everything. And it looks like I'm going to have to do a little more here than I thought. There's a little hole right there. Just some poor blending there. There's some chips here. There's some damage here where the door comes down and latches. It looks like it had scraped there. So I'm going to go ahead and do some body filler here. Light sand it before we move on down here. And I'll get a close-up. This is where I filled last time, that hole. But you can see we have one here that needs to be filled. Some cracking here. This is where the weather stripping was. It kind of pulled up the clear coat. But you can just see there's just a lot of, just some flaws here that need to be taken care of. Right in here as well. A little bit there needs to be blended. So in addition to sanding down these patches that have been done, I think I'm going to give a lot of, just some small coats along there. Just touching these spots up. And here's where the door latches in, and there's a plate that comes down here, but it's not going to cover this. It looks like that was chipped or something happened, so we're going to fix that as well, a little bit right in here as well. Everything has been patched up with the body filler. Also hit a couple spots around the hood area that we had noticed some minor stuff. So we're going to let these dry. Then we'll be back to sand it down, and then we'll go ahead and prime these areas here, clean this up, and then we'll move on to the back. All this has been sanded down, nice and smooth. Looks like it's going to be perfect in here. Just finished shaping in here. Going to go ahead and vacuum all this dust off, wipe it down. We'll go ahead and hit it with the primer, and that way we can move on to down here, getting all this stripped down to the bare. So let's go ahead and do it. Just went ahead and gave the coat of filler primer all across from here up to here and in that door area there. Turned out actually very good. Still some imperfections right in that crease. I'm not too worried about that because, as we mentioned before, the weather stripping goes there, so that's going to cover that. As far as the flat pieces here, all those imperfections that we were looking at earlier, all that's been squared away. It's nice and smooth. We'll let that dry, maybe hit it up a little bit next time around, and then of course then the white top coat of primer will go over that as well before the paint and clear coat. That'll be nice and smooth. Up here as well, didn't turn out perfect, but it looks better than it was. I'm fine with that because at the end of the day, there's a bracket that goes there. It's not going to really be seen that much, so I'm not too worried about that. So we're going to go ahead and let this dry. Then we're going to go ahead and strip all this down here, take care of that, and then move on to the back. been sanded down, all the dust vacuumed, it's been wiped down here, and then we also did the back fender back there where we had that crack that was filled. Gonna let this dry a little bit, then we're gonna hit it with primer, and then that'll take care of this whole driver's side. We'll move on to the area around the back window, and then we'll wrap it up for this time in the garage. So let's give it a few minutes and we'll be back to prime it. Everything's been primed. It actually turned out excellent, and it's drying now. That looks good. We also came back here and applied primer up here. Turned out okay. Gonna do a light sanding. It's getting a little bit of a reaction to the resin that was filled in there, so gonna let this first coat dry, lightly sand it, apply one more, and I think that'll be good. So as these dry, I'm gonna start prepping here so we can wrap that up here and call it a day here in the garage. And there's the rear fender back here where that split was. You can see that's all taken care of. Got a little bit of an imperfection up there, but I think once the paint and all goes on, that's going to take care of that. Everything else turned out perfect, all nice and sealed. Went ahead just now and slightly sanded and then reprimed this part of the roof of the vehicle. There was a little bit of some indentations last time. We got those taken care of. Let's head over here to the back and take a look around the rear window. That's all been reprimed and sanded. You can see it's a lot smoother. We had some damage here on the sides. There was some just kind of some markings there where some of the resin and adhesive when this bump out was put in had ran down the sides. That's been cleaned up. That's been smoothed out up here. Let's get a close-up of that. Nice and smooth. Couple little imperfections. This one here showed up. May fill that a little bit, or I may wait until we do the white top coat primer before paint, and that might fill a little bit with some filler primer. Other than that, everything else turned out great. All right, before we wrap up this episode, let's head over to one of the rims. I want to show you what I plan on doing when we refinish these rims. So let's head over here and take a look. This is the centerpiece that goes on these rims that covers the lug nuts. I've already gone ahead and refinished these, and what I did is I did them in an aluminum type finish, which is what we're planning on doing for the rims. These rims here, these old rims, these are actually steel rims that had chrome. I don't like that. So when I go ahead and strip all this down, we're going to go ahead and put just a rust reformer inhibitor on there, get rid of all the rust, prime it, and then we're going to coat it with this same finish here, which is that aluminum finish. Now the vehicle is going to be painted that metallic silver. To avoid it being all silver, I went ahead and made these centerpieces here, all black with the modern Lamborghini symbol on it. Still undecided because I could leave them like this because I do have the original Lamborghini Countach centerpieces from the old LP400S. I have them back at my house. Now, take a look and I'll show you what they normally look like. And as you can see, they're a lot smaller. They're silver, and then they have the Lamborghini Bull done in black. And I'm thinking with these being the aluminum finish, the vehicle being metallic silver, having the emblem being silver with just the black, it's just going to be so small, it's not going to give enough contrast. So that's why I went ahead and made these here to fill up that whole centerpiece. And then these will be the black with the gold. They look more like the more modern Lamborghinis, but I don't know. I think that's what I'm leaning towards for now. Once we get these rims completely done, put those on there with the vehicle, we'll see how it looks. But so far I'm leaning towards this, but we'll see what happens. So this pretty much wraps up our time here in the garage working on the Countach project. I hope this video was informative and enjoyable for you. Please send me any questions, any comments. I would love to hear from you. As always, I appreciate all the support. Next time that we get back in the garage, we're going to start working on the pop-up headlight assemblies before we move on to the suspension. And then hopefully at that point, we're coming up on spring. We'll put the white top coat of primer, start painting and clear coating it, and wrap this thing up. So Please like this video, subscribe to this channel. I'll see you next time.